Well, welcome back to another video segment brought to you by the Last Stand podcast. Coming at you from the Carolina Command Center right here down on the ground in the good old USA. I am your less than humble host, Wild Bill of the Wild Bill fame. Folks, we have a midterm election here that is unlike any other that I've ever experienced. And I know, we hear it all the time. This election is the most pivotal election, the most important election that you could possibly vote in. We hear it all the time. But folks, I'm telling you, this is the most important midterm election that we could possibly be participating in here in 2026. And we're going to talk about it, because if we don't elect real Republicans, real conservatives to these positions, and we're facing the primaries right now, then we're going to lose our momentum. So we're going to talk about all that. So let's do it. Folks, we are just days away from the primary election. I think we're, 5 days now away from the primary elections that are happening here in Stanley County, right here down on the ground in the good old USA. And folks, I see it on social media a lot. People still have questions about who they should vote for, right? And look, you all know that I'm not neutral in any of this, all right? I don't do my podcast to be neutral, all right? I have picked my side, and that is the side of conservatism and real Republicans. And if you've been listening to my podcast, you know I have called out Democrats, but I have called out pretend Republicans, or what I've referred to as pretend Republicans, most notably on this school board here in Stanley County, of which we have 2 at-large seats that are up for grabs here this year. But you know that I have railed on pretend Republicans, and you'll remember that I talked a lot about this school board having these type of pretend Republicans on there. And what I mean by pretend Republicans, folks, pretend Republicans are, they may be conservative and Republican in spirit, but they never deliver the punch. These would be more establishment types, right? And, they talk the talk, and it sounds good, but they never deliver the punch, right? And there are reasons for that, and I'll get into some of those in my next broadcast podcast. But you have pretend Republicans out there that were former Democrats, most notably on the school board, most notably on the county commissioners. And, in a lot of cases, it's rare when you see a real, what I would call come to Jesus, and you recognize that the Democrat philosophy, the Democrat ideologies, the Democrat flavor of governance in your local governing bodies, once a Democrat, always a Democrat. And you tend to govern that way. You tend to vote that way, especially with big issues. And we've seen that here on the county commissioners. We've seen that on our school board. So, I talk a lot about pretend Republicans. I have my reasons for thinking, who's this guy? He's a pretend Republican. Who's this guy? He's a real conservative. And I am not neutral in any of this. So if you're expecting neutral, buckle up and hold on to your butts, because it's not going to happen here. So let's talk about one of the county commissioner seats that's up for grabs. And, the flyers have gone out, right? We have 2 so far from Lane Furr. And, I haven't talked to Lane Furr. I know he says he's a lifelong Republican. He goes back prior to my time here, I believe. But, I've talked with Mike Barbie. I've watched Mike Barbie. I've seen him operate as a conservative Republican member of this county commissioners here in Stanley County. And, if anybody accuses Mike Barbie of being a liberal or some kind of Democrat-flavored politician, I can tell you, folks, that's about as far from the truth as you can possibly get. I've seen Mike Barbie. The one thing that Mike Barbie hates to do is misuse taxpayer funds. He hates to abuse the taxpayer money. And by God, if he sees it, he's not doing it. you know. But Mike Barbie, he wants to be a good steward of taxpayers' money, and this is part of what I got from Mike Barbie from an email exchange when I asked him, what he was all about. Mike Barbie wants to be a good steward of taxpayer money. I believe it. I've seen him vote on things. He's like, no, the taxpayers shouldn't pay for that. And one of the examples that I can give is the school board, the Stanley County School Board, basically shoved these two projects that were going to cost $84 million plus to the Stanley County taxpayer. And they were really banking on a federal grant. And we didn't get the grant. But if we had gotten the grant and the school board had gotten everything they want, and when I say the school board, I mean the monarch majority, if they'd have gotten everything they want and was able to convince the Stanley County commissioners to go along with it, we would have been on the hook for $30 million or more, folks. Especially when you're talking about interest and things like that, depending on how you raise that money, right? Mike Barbie was one of the key members of the Stanley County commissioners to put the kibosh on that. And they literally saved our tax-paying bacon on that issue. So Mike Barbie is good in my book, and that's why I'm supporting the guy. Just like everything else that we hear, the proof is in the pudding, right? I know Mike Barbie. He supports law enforcement. He supports our county sheriff. Jeff Crisco is a good man. I don't think you can find anybody really that has any beef with Jeff Crisco. Jeff Crisco is a solid sheriff, and Mike Barbie supports the sheriff, right? In terms of the monies that are being spent for jails and things like that, I think Mike Barbie is literally, it's the difference between a hammer and a scalpel. And when it comes to your tax-paying dollars, he's going to be looking to make sure that we don't misuse taxpayer dollars. I think he's with a lot of us who know that we have to build a new jail. And I think that's coming. But, to say that a candidate supports law enforcement and that Mike Barbie doesn't, that's simply not the case, folks. Research the record. Know who you're supporting here, right? Lane Furr may support law enforcement, but that doesn't mean that Mike Barbie doesn't, And I get it, folks. You got to try and differentiate yourself from your opponent, but that's not a good one. You know what I mean? Anybody that says that Mike Barbie's not for law enforcement, anybody that says Mike Barbie abuses your taxpayer dollars just hasn't been paying attention, folks. And if you believe it, anybody that says it, I'm telling you, what record do you have to go on is what I'm asking. Because the record does show the complete opposite of accusations or allegations that Mike Barbie is not frugal with your taxpaying dollars, that Mike Barbie doesn't support our local county sheriff and our law enforcement in general. That's just false, I have a statement from Mike Barbie that I got in an email exchange, and this is the reason why that I'm supporting Mike Barbie, not just because of how instrumental he's been on the county commissioners in the last year, but also because of these positions that he takes. And it says, I support lowering property taxes or keeping them as low as possible. We need to be good stewards of the taxpayers' money. I hate misuse of funds, and I want to protect farmland and slow down growth because we need to control housing developments in this county to protect our infrastructure and the rising costs protect ourselves from the rising costs from upgrading our wastewater treatment plant and county water costs, which of course affects all taxpayers. We have to make our county more efficient so we don't have to raise property taxes. I want our county to be more affordable to those who have lived here all their lives and to be able to stay in their homes. When citizens have problems, we need to address their concerns and help them not ignore their problems. I hope to help our farmers in keeping their land and making it more affordable for them. Our schools have needs, and I look forward to working with the school board and with people to address those needs responsibly. And he's proved it, folks. Like I said, he was instrumental in making sure that the taxpayer in Stanley County wasn't on the hook for $30 million. And he's fixing to do it again, folks. There are things that this school board is doing that continues to demonstrate or to prove to me that they're still pushing forward with the plans of consolidation will eventually bolster the West End and choke out your smaller schools in virtually every other end of the school districts. So Mike Barbie's got my vote, and that's why I'm supporting him. You know, Lane Furr, I don't know Lane Furr personally. He says a lot of the things that you hear from a lot of candidates. He supports law enforcement. He supports lowering taxes for Stanley County citizens. You know, in one of his flyers, he kind of accuses Mike Barbie of not of voting against a tax cut. I don't think that's accurate, folks. And if I were you, I would ask Mike Barbie directly what that accusation means, because I've never seen Mike Barbie vote against a tax cut or trying to keep taxpayer burdens low in this county. It's a struggle that we face, and I think Mike Barbie's got the proven record that shows that if he can lower your tax burden, by God, he's going to do it. And that's why I'm supporting Mike Barbie. The guy is genuine. And like I said, I don't know Lane Furr, but it seems that when you send out 2 flyers and the most that you have in your flyers kind of make these distortions about your opponent, and in some case outright false narratives about your opponent, what does that say about your record? You know, I mean, are you going to be, can you run on your record? You know, and I get it. It's a competition, folks. You know, people are going to try and differentiate themselves from their opponents. But, you know, in my opinion, if you're willing to lie and to mislead people into thinking that Mike Barbie is like Joe Biden as a Democrat, and that he aligns with Democrat principles and philosophies in governance, that's at the very least misleading. At the most, and at worst, it's an outright lie, folks. So know who and what it is that you're voting for, folks. And I'm telling you, as far as I'm concerned, Mike Barbie deserves another term on this county commissioners board. Mike Barbie's my guy. So take it for what it's worth, folks. If you're worried about pretend Republicans, people who talk the talk, people who don't walk the walk, who are former Democrats or consistently vote with Democrats, you know, if you're worried about any of that, Mike Barbie's your guy, because I'm not worried about any of that from Mike Barbie. And that's all I got to say about that, folks. Mike Barbie, that's your guy. He's my guy, and I want him to have another term on this county commissioners board. He's got a real record of looking out for the taxpayer. He's got real conservative values and principles that he stands by, especially when it comes to fiscal matters and budgetary matters. Mike Barbie's my guy, man. And I would highly encourage people to look at his record. And if you can, try to get to know Mike Barbie if you don't know him already. Mike Barbie is the guy. I'm voting for Mike Barbie. And that's all I got to say about that.
Yoo-hoo! I'll make you famous.